Greetings, divine beings, netters and netterts slash gods and goddesses. It's your god brother Ray. I believe this is my first real official video of 2017. I've been caught up handling things on the home front and just enjoying life a little bit, where I'm able to sit back and laugh at some of the things and share my laughter with you through video and different stuff like that. But this is my first real video where I'm building on consciousness. I'm building on awakening. I'm building on social issues that our people face, within our communities for this year of 2017, which we know this year is far off because their calendars are far off and their timeline is far off, and the new year doesn't start till about March anyway of every year. But with that being said, I seen something very disturbing on the news earlier today, and I think somebody built on it in one of the groups on Facebook as well, and they were talking about how Trump wants to send feds into the city of Chicago to get a control over the so-called mass murdering that has been persistent over the years throughout that city within the largely populated Africans in America and Latinos in America population. Now, concerning that very topic, I want to say, first of all, I see a far bigger problem than what the federal government does, evidently. And to be more accurate, the problem that I'm seeing is they are the problem. They created these conditions. They created these situations. So when you say that you're going to send the feds into Chicago, where are these feds going to? Where are these law enforcement agencies and enforcement personnel going to? Are they going to the corrupt local governments and holding them accountable for what these corrupt local governments allow to happen and flourish abundantly within the African community and within the largely Latino populated communities of Chicago? No, they're not going to go there, because first of all, let's get something straight. If these local governments and the federal government as well, if y'all really wanted to get a control over what was going on in the largely African populated and Latino populated communities nationwide, not only in Chicago, but nationwide, then you would have control over it. Because for some reason, the largely European or Caucasian populated areas, neighborhoods, etc., don't face these same problems. These conditions are not persistent in the largely populated areas where Caucasians are, the largely Caucasian populated areas, and where they reside at. It just only happens to happens to be in the largely African and Latino populated areas and communities nationwide, all across this nation and globally. And who's in control of this nation? Who's in control of the local governments? It sure enough ain't us. We have people in position doing the bidding of the people who's higher than them. We're not going to get into that, but I'm going to go back to what I'm saying. Basically, they are in essence, the government, blaming the African and the Latino people of Chicago for the crimes and conditions created by their hands, by the government's hands, by their lack of good government practices, by corrupt activities, greed, and outright evil that's consistent nationwide and has been consistent since the start of this European band of imperial kidnapping and land robbing parasitic mass murderers. So for them to intentionally misplace, we'll use the word misplace, for them to intentionally misplace the blame and deny that they are in fact serial killers of quote unquote minorities, African and Latinos, populations in that city by the system of governing that they created, then sending in feds to target those communities as trouble spots, are another form of genocide, false imprisonment, grounds for false imprisonment, should I say, and continuing the systematic genocide intentionally implemented as part of their government practices concerning communities with large African and Latino populations in that city of Chicago and nationwide. We are under attack, people. Let's not sugarcoat this any longer. Let's not try to beat around the bush and avoid attacking this situation and the predicament that we are in head on and directly. We are under attack by the system of government in place in this nation. And once we realize that, we must also internalize that to work with the system that has proved for almost 240 years of its existence that it is unwilling to change is only proving that you also are unwilling to do what's truly needed and necessary to eliminate these harsh conditions brought on by the government in place intentionally on our people. Separation, as I've said for the longest time, for years, and many of our elders and babas and teachers who I studied from and learned under have said, this is the only key. Separation is the only key. You cannot be someone who wants to stop being burned by a fire, but yet you want to still stay near the fire that's burning you. You cannot be someone who wants to not be electrocuted anymore, but yet you still keep on going back and putting your hand on that electrical socket or sticking the fork in the socket where there's electrical current residing at. You have to separate yourself from that activity. You have to separate yourself from that which is electrocuting you. Okay? So separation is the only key. There's no way around it. If, ands, or buts. Okay? Centuries of us trying to work with this system has proven that they are unwilling to change. They love the exploitation of our people. They love the land robbing and murdering of our people. They love being able to power and further strengthen their foundation and establishment by the work, hands, and blood, sweat, and tears of our people. So once again, I echo the sentiments of many babas before me and that are still out spreading this word right now. Separation is the only key. Then building our own system that will work for the benefit of our own people, just as their system works for the benefit of theirs. You know, one of the most destructive phrases I've ever seen introduced to the psyche of the African in America, the Latinos in America, anyone deemed minorities, which we know we're not minorities, we are the majority, being ruled by the minority. But one of the most destructive phrases ever introduced to the psyche of our people is the phrase that says, if you cannot beat them, then join them. Have you ever thought about that? If you cannot beat them, then join them. So you accepting defeat and you're now joining hands and forces with the enemy. First of all, there's nobody that the greatest and natural beings that ever existed on this planet cannot defeat. There's nobody that we cannot defeat. When we minus the false ideologies, the false teachings and misteachings that they promoted to keep us divided, and then truly get unified and organized, we are unstoppable. We don't need to join anyone. Second of all, why would you want to join someone who is killing your brothers, your sisters, your mothers, your fathers, your family, period, neighbors, loved ones, and anyone that looks like you? Why would you want to join someone like that? Call me what you want to, but I'm just being a realist. We know what we need to do. Our engineers can build our own factories and the equipment needed inside to run these factories. Just like we built all the equipment inside that's needed to run their factories. Just like we invented all of the machinery and stuff like that inside of their factories that power and run their factories. Then our people working in those factories, working those machines, can also work in our factories, work the machines in our establishments, minus the discrimination, the racism, the oppressive work environment, and be treated truly equally, working for our own, to have a hand in establishing our own. That's what we need to be doing. We can pick up the torch that our ancestors passed down to us and carry it properly and do what we need to do, or we can sit back and continue to complain about the harsh conditions and the realities that we live in and do nothing while we remain oppressed under the conditions which also will plague our children and their children. We are the ones. It's our time. With that knowledge, move forward. Make something happen. Post all you want. It ain't doing a damn thing if you're not putting what you are posting concerning positive imagery, positive actions, positive solutions that need to be implemented and put into action. This is your God, Brother Andre Freeland, 360 degrees of wholeness, perfection, and power. Abiba for Houdier.